Marines here. You better not be telling me anything happened to any of my boys.
Two Marines with strong ties to Central PA making the ultimate sacrifice.
We can feel their pain, believe me. We can feel their pain. We know what they're going through.
Tonight, reaction from a proud but grieving family and a grateful community. CBS 21 News at 5 starts right now. Thank you for joining us tonight at 5. I'm Jasmine Brooks.
And I'm Jessie McDonough. Tonight we are honoring 3 Marines killed in a suicide bombing attack in Afghanistan, 2 of which had ties right here in Central PA. Corporal Robert Hendricks and Sergeant Benjamin Hines and Staff Sergeant Christopher Slootman were killed on Monday when a bomb exploded by a car they were driving. Both Hines and Slootman were stationed out of the reserve base in Harrisburg and have other ties to York County. Our Brian Sheehan and Michael Gorsinger are live in York County tonight. CBS 21's Michael Gorsinger is in Dallastown, where the community is remembering Sergeant Benjamin Hines.
Well, this is certainly a community that's proud of his service. In fact, this wall right here at the Dallastown American Legion, Post 605, has names of people that have served in various conflict. But today, American Legion Post 605 remembers Ben Hines, a man who gave his life for our freedom. It's a community in mourning after the death of 2006 Dallastown High School graduate Benjamin Hines.
When somebody gets killed, I mean, it really affects you.
The 31-year-old Hines played football at Dallastown High School while serving as one of the 2 commanders of the junior ROTC program. His service weighing heavily on the members of the local American Legion Post 605.
I can't express the sympathy, and I'm sure they're proud that their son or daughter gave the ultimate sacrifice.
Nobody knows service more than this group of veterans. The news of Hines' death hitting home as Post 605 members provided an honor guard for funeral services for another person who served this fine nation admirably.
This just terrible news is just sadness and sympathy for the families.
Now, Dallastown Superintendent Ron Dyer tells me everyone that speaks of Ben Hines speaks very highly of him. In fact, he was one of 2 commanders of the junior ROTC program, a very big milestone. And what he says is obvious, that he was a great leader. No funeral arrangements have yet been released. Live in Dallastown, York County, Michael Gorsinger, CBS 21 News.
Michael, thank you. Staff Sergeant Christopher Slootman is living in Delaware, or was, with his family. Now, his family, mother and father, living now in York County. CBS 21's Brian Sheehan continues our live team coverage in Lower Windsor Township with their reaction tonight.
Well, Jasmine, Fletcher Slootman was expecting his son Chris's arrival home from Afghanistan in the coming weeks. Now, instead of preparing for his homecoming, they're planning for his funeral. It was a usual night at the Slootmans' Lower Windsor Township home Monday until 2 men in uniform arrived at their front door.
They sat down and they said, "Do you want to call your wife in?" And I was shaking. And he said, so I said, "Mary, we got some Marines here. They want to talk to us. They want you to come out." So she came out right away. She said, "You better not be telling me anything happened to any of my boys."
For Fletcher Slootman, it's still hard to believe his son, 43-year-old Sergeant Christopher Slootman, is gone.
I asked him, I said, "Was this combat or just an accident?" He said it was combat.
On Monday, Slootman and 2 other U.S. Marines were killed when a roadside bomb went off outside a military base in Afghanistan. The Taliban claimed responsibility. His father tells us his son's desire to serve his country began when he was just a child.
At 8, he wanted to be a New York City firefighter.
And it was a dream he lived out for 15 years, working at Ladder 27 in the Bronx. It's where black and purple bunting now hangs, a sign they've lost one of their own. In addition to his parents and siblings, Slootman leaves behind a wife and 3 young girls. He also leaves behind a trove of memories.
Good son. He was always involved with sports, so we were always doing that together.
Slootman says talking about his son has gotten him through the past 2 days. But one of the most difficult moments came later Monday night, when he found himself talking to his own parents, both of whom died long ago.
I told them. I said to take care of him when he gets here.
Now, arrangements are still pending tonight. Slutman is expected to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. Live in Lower Windsor Township, York County tonight, I'm Brian Sheehan, CBS 21 News.
Brian, thank you. And as we remember Sergeant Christopher Slutman here in Central PA, the New York City Fire Department is honoring the hero as well. Slutman was a part of the FDNY family serving as a firefighter. The Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation will be paying off Slutman's mortgage, and they're now taking donations for his family.
And the third Marine killed in the bombing was from New York City. Family of Corporal Robert Hendricks says he was a sweet, kind, and loving man. They say he and his brother wanted to become police officers after serving in the military. Hendricks' brother had just started a tour in Afghanistan and will now be escorting his coffin back to the U.S.
So far this year, 7 U.S. troops have been killed in Afghanistan in 4 incidents just since January, the first one happening on January 18th. That's where an Army Special Forces officer was killed in a shooting. Then just a few days later, January 22nd, a Ranger died, an Army Ranger, from wounds that he got in combat. In March, 2 troops were killed, March 22nd. They were taking part in a military operation in northern Afghanistan. The most recent being Monday's explosion, of course, that killed 3 outside of a Bagram air base. Now, 2 obviously from central Pennsylvania that we're remembering tonight. And the war in Afghanistan is America's longest running conflict, going on since October of 2001. In that time, more than 2,000 U.S. troops have been killed, and according to the Department of Defense, more than 20,000 U.S. troops have been injured. Earlier today, I spoke to CBS News national security correspondent David Martin about what will it take to end the war.
Both sides, the United States, the Taliban, realize that they can't win this war. You just can't kill enough of the enemy to win this war. So it has to end with some sort of negotiated peace settlement.
There are currently about 15,000 U.S. troops stationed in Afghanistan.
You can follow this story from the very beginning and learn more about our fallen heroes by going to CBS21.com. And we're following breaking news out of Lancaster County tonight. Discover Lancaster, the county's tourism bureau, is canceling its annual meeting at the Star Barn. In a statement, Discover Lancaster says it will not be able to, quote, fulfill its purpose of celebrating our tourism community. It comes as controversy surrounds the Star Barn, which announced earlier this month it would not host same-sex wedding ceremonies.
And now to CBS 21 News first warning weather, where it's been a beautiful day, but on the windy side. So winds still kicking out of the northwest here at about 14 miles per hour in Harrisburg, 12 in Lancaster and York. Breeze will die down a little bit as we go through the evening hours. So here's the heads up. It's a bit chillier. You know, we've gotten spoiled with the 70s and 60s and mild nighttime temperatures. Not the case tonight. Look at this. We're down to 60 at 7 p.m., but quickly into the 50s and then 40s. So prepare if you're heading out for a walk or something like that this evening, especially as soon as that sun goes down, it gets pretty chilly. We'll have your 7-day forecast coming up. It includes our next chance for rain. We'll show you that with the 7-day in just a few minutes. Jasmine, back to you.
Thanks, Tom. State lawmakers engaged in another battle over reforming the statute of limitations for child sex abuse. We break down the changes being made in a live report in minutes.
Plus, standing up against hate, how lawmakers are coming together to honor victims of the mass synagogue shooting. That's next.
Continuing coverage from the state capitol tonight, where lawmakers are moving forward with a number of bills addressing child sex abuse. Just a few hours ago, the House passed a dual piece of legislation. Now, this is coming as the Senate introduces its very own bill. CBS 21's Amanda Hoskins is live in Harrisburg to break it all down for us.
Good evening, Jasmine. Well, there is a lot happening on both sides of the Capitol here today. Now, earlier this morning, Attorney General Josh Shapiro stood with a number of child sexual abuse victims behind a group of freshman Democratic senators as they introduced Senate Bill 540. Now, that bill would lift the statute of limitations for adults who were sexually abused at any age. Senator Tim Kearney says getting justice for victims is just one of his goals.
These are people who suffer every day, and that trauma goes on and on and on. And we have the opportunity to give them some relief from that, and we haven't done it yet.
Now, on the House side, earlier today, as Jasmine, you just spoke about, legislators were able to pass within the House 2 bills that would go together that would also, they say, help victims of child sexual abuse. And now the terms of that would be that it would eliminate the criminal statute of limitations. It would also extend the civil age from 30 to 55 years old. And it would also create an amendment to the Constitution that would allow for a 2-year retroactive window for past victims to file suit. Now, that final part about that retroactive window and the constitutional amendment is what is being heavily criticized by victim advocates at this point in time. They fear that it's just going to take too long for that process to happen because it would have to go through 2 whole different sessions, and likely voters would decide in the end, and it wouldn't be until probably the primaries in 2021. But we'll talk much more about that coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Reporting live in the outside of the Capitol, I'm Amanda Hoskins. Send it back to you.
Thanks, Amanda. Survivors of the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh are being honored today at the state capitol as well. The House and Senate took part in a joint session this morning praying for the victims of the October 27th shooting. Lawmakers unanimously passed several stronger-than-hate resolutions condemning the attack. Robert Bowers is charged in the shooting and could face the death penalty. And today's ceremony comes as other Republican lawmakers are trying to impeach the mayor of Pittsburgh. Representative Daryl Metcalf is calling for the mayor to step down after signing an ordinance that bans military-style rifles in the city. The National Rifle Association is also suing the city, saying the measures are unconstitutional. And President Trump in the White House getting even tougher on immigration.
The changes he's calling for as the asylum system continues to fill up. Next.
And weather-wise, we continue to enjoy some fairly nice temperatures for this time of year, kind of right where we should be in the low 60s. We've got your first warning forecast straight ahead.
President Trump is in Texas tonight getting ready for 2020, taking part in fundraisers and speaking with supporters. The trip comes as the White House is laying out a new, tougher immigration strategy. A senior administrator says the president wants the right to detain migrant children longer and make it harder for asylum seekers to get work permits. The president is also calling for lawmakers to change immigration laws.
The whole asylum rules, laws, and regulations have been taken advantage of by people that are very bad people in many cases. It's very important that the Democrats in Congress change these loopholes.
The president says he is not considering reinstating the controversial policy of separating families.
And Attorney General William Barr is back on Capitol Hill today, answering more questions about the Mueller report and the investigation into the Trump campaign. Barr says he is setting up a team to investigate how the Russia investigation began. He also dropped a bombshell saying the FBI spied on the president's campaign. But he stopped short of calling the investigation a witch hunt.
I think spying did occur.
Well, let me.
But the question is whether it was adequately predicated. And I'm not suggesting it wasn't adequately predicated, but I'd need to explore that.
Barr also promised once again that he would release a redacted version of the Mueller report next week.
Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders unveiled a new Medicare for All plan. It overhauls the healthcare system to a single-payer one. Sinclair's national correspondent Michelle Macaluso looks at the proposal and how it could impact you.
The Medicare for All plan by Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders will create a universal government health care system that guarantees all Americans health care.
The American people want, and we are going to deliver, a Medicare for All single-payer system.
The self-proclaimed Democratic socialist is leading in the polls among presidential Democratic candidates and is making health care a top campaign issue. 4 senators also running for president are co-sponsoring his legislation. Sanders argues his plan will lower costs and save Americans money. It also eliminates private health insurance. More than 150 million Americans are currently covered by private health insurance.
The promise is if you like what you have, you can't keep it because the only thing you'll be able to have is government-provided Medicare.
Some studies have found that the Medicare for All plan could cost more than $25 trillion over the next decade. President Trump and Republicans are blasting the price tag.
Bernie wants to, he wants to give everybody free health care. And by the way, have it run by the government. He knows we can't afford that. He needs to get out of long land.
Healthcare is a #1 issue facing voters, according to ScottRasmussen.com.
There's a sense of instability. There's a sense that the prices keep going up for healthcare, and we keep hearing more and more problems and more people having some challenges with insurance. So there's that uncertainty factor.
One thing is clear, lawmakers on both sides want to fix healthcare, but just have different ideas on how to get there. In Washington, I'm Michelle Macaluso.
And now, CBS 21 News First Warning Weather with Chief Meteorologist Tom Russell.
Well, we've had some nice spring weather, a little cooler today and will be cooler tonight, but it could be worse. What do I mean by worse? How about a major snowstorm through the Midwest? So all the blue that you see there from places like Colorado up through the Dakotas and then into Minnesota, that is not just some light snowfall. This is a major snowstorm, especially where you see those darker blues. Look at that. From about Minneapolis all the way over towards Milwaukee. That is pretty impressive stuff. They're expecting snowfall totals of a foot and a half on, and in some spots 2 feet of snow here with this system. So for April, this is impressive, even in the upper Midwest, that's for sure. Nice and quiet in your backyard, though. We cleared out some of that cloudiness overnight, so we got plenty of sunshine. It's a bit breezy. You can see a few high, thin clouds here kind of showing up on the satellite, but other than that, it's pretty nice. Definitely windy out of the northwest at about 14 miles per hour in Harrisburg, 11 there in State College. So with that breeze and as the evening progresses, it is going to be chilly. So you need a jacket or a sweatshirt if you're heading out tonight. The other stuff that's flying on that wind, yeah, tree pollen is high. Grass pollen is high. Weeds and mold still low at this point, but if you're an allergy sufferer, you're really feeling the trees and the grass pollen at this point. Let's talk about our temperatures as we go through the next 24 hours. Here's Lancaster, here's Harrisburg, here's York, and follow along as we go from the 60s where we are now well down to around 40, and notice this, some spots into the upper 30s, maybe 38 or 39 degrees as we start out tomorrow. So a chilly start tomorrow, and then we rebound nicely to right around 60, still windy, so it still has that cooler feel. Let's talk about our next rainmaker. That's going to come in as we get into Friday. Remember our major snowstorm here through the Great Lakes. We're on the tail end of this thing, so for us, it's rain, but not until Friday evening. So Friday is dry. Friday night, we get some rain. We get a break Saturday, but it's not much of a break because watch this. Here comes our next rain, this time on Sunday, and that Sunday shower activity will linger all the way into Monday. So pretty wet for the second half of the weekend into the first part of next week. By the way, you're heading up to the blue-white game. Yeah, football is back at Penn State this weekend at Beaver Stadium, 71 degrees. It's a 3 o'clock game. That's not bad. Mostly sunny, breezy. Winds to be out of the west at 10 to 15 miles per hour. There's been some spring games that have been awfully chilly. That's not bad at all. Clear skies, a little bit chilly tonight. Still breezy, down to 40 for the overnight low. A couple upper 30s in some outlying areas. Then sunshine, 60. And notice windy pretty much for the rest of the week. Warmer but cloudy on Friday, 68. That rain coming in Friday night into Saturday. Saturday clears out, so Saturday's not bad, 72, but that rain coming back for Sunday. So at least we're still mild, right around 70. Rain showers linger into Monday, 68, and then some quieter weather for Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. But it does look colder. Here's a heads up. It does look colder for Easter weekend.
Okay.
So if you're planning your Easter outfits, plan ahead for some chilly stuff.
And you were mowing the grass today?
I did, first mow of the season, and I hate to give in because once you do it and once you start,
I want to know.
I hate to brag, but I'll be in Florida during Easter weekend.
Oh,
so
well, how fun.
Whatever coldness you're dealing with,
there
I'm
you
going to
go.
skip that.
Wear whatever you want then.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, it's the first image of an amazing space event scientists thought they would never see.
Coming up, how they were able to capture this picture of a black hole.
Scientists from the U.S., France, and the Netherlands are making headlines for the first ever pictures of a black hole.
Check it out. The glowing ring is at the center of a galaxy called M87, which is 55 million light years from Earth. Scientists say it's an area of space so large and heavy that nothing can escape. The image was captured by a global network of radio antennas.
And bayous are at the Dock Street Dam, but it wasn't an easy job getting them there.
All right, coming up in just minutes, the reason the city says it took so long to complete. Stay with us.
The Trump administration has designated Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a foreign terrorist organization. This is the first time that the United States has declared an entire army of a foreign government a terrorist entity. The move imposes economic and travel sanctions on the Revolutionary Guard and on all countries, companies, and organizations tied to the group. The Iranian government, using the Revolutionary Guard as a tool, has trained, financed, and weaponized terrorist entities such as Hezbollah and Hamas. Iran has perpetuated wars in Syria and Yemen. 603 American soldiers are believed to have been killed by Iranian-sponsored groups during the Second Iraq War. Iran, of course, did not take this move lightly. They responded to their new designation by chanting death to America, and in a show of truly special creativity, labeling the United States military as a supporter of terrorism. The latest designation by the American government is an important part of the administration's maximum pressure campaign to cripple Iran, hollow out their economy, and ultimately bring peace to the Middle East. Here's the bottom line. Iran and its military have to know that funding terror and causing instability in the Middle East and beyond will not go unpunished.
Boris, President Trump's tactics are certainly outside of the box, but he opens us up to potential retaliation. Coming up, my thoughts on President Trump's recent moves to neutralize Iran.
The views expressed by commentators do not necessarily reflect the views of this station.
We are honoring the lives of 3 Marines tonight killed by a suicide bomb in Afghanistan.
And 2 of those Marines have ties to Central PA. They died Monday when a car blew up next to a convoy they were a part of. 7 U.S. troops have died in Afghanistan this year, the latest deaths in the ongoing war. Earlier today, I spoke with CBS News national security correspondent David Martin, who's at the Pentagon with the latest in this case.
This was a unit of Marine reserves who were operating with troops from the country of Georgia. Georgia used to be part of the old Soviet Union. It's now an independent country, and it has troops operating alongside Americans in Afghanistan. On the day of the explosion, the Marines were escorting a convoy to a meeting with a local Afghan leader. And on the way back from that meeting, they were following a car, and the car pulled over to the side of the road as if it were going to let the convoy pass. But when the convoy came even with the car, it detonated, and it was obviously a suicide car bomb. And the 3 Marines were killed, and 3 others were wounded. The latest update on the 3 wounded is that they are all in stable condition.
Now, how long do these investigations normally last? Will more information come out as the week goes on?
Probably not as the week goes on. There's an investigation into every American death, but these investigations take weeks and sometimes months before we get any access to them.
And coming up on CBS 21 News at 6, we have live team coverage from York County, speaking with family members of Sergeant Slutman and how the Dallastown community is remembering Benjamin Hines. You can follow this story from the beginning and learn more about the fallen heroes at CBS21.com.
We have this just into CBS 21 News. A judge is giving the former Penn State president 3 weeks to report to jail. Graham Spanier has been appealing his 2017 conviction over his handling of the Jerry Sandusky case and has been out on bail. He was sentenced to 2 months in jail and 2 months of house arrest. Developing tonight, buoys are now floating around the Dock Street Dam. This after 2 out of 3 family members of a family died after their boat capsized near the dam. Mary Breadbenner and Madeline Binkley were killed. Cody Binkley was able to get to shore and call 911.
And it actually pulled us in, and my buddy and I fortunately got away from it just in the nick of time.
A Pennsylvania man sharing his story of survival after getting sucked into a low-head dam.
In Harrisburg, new buoys are floating in the Susquehanna River, warning boaters of the dangers of the dam. Installing them was dangerous. The city struggled to find anyone to put them in their place.
CBS 21's Karina Chung joins us live right by the dam with all the details tonight. Karina?
Well, Rob, Jasmine, can you imagine installing buoys at this part of the river here? This section of the river stretches to be about a mile long. Now, that's one reason that it made it difficult to find someone for this task. The roar of a low-head dam, quiet from up on the shore.
As far as I'm concerned, you can't put enough signs up or buoys or whatever, and you have to respect the river.
Joe Natalini bringing his boat in after a day on the Susquehanna.
When I see them, I try to stay away from them, only because I know the danger, because I had a bad experience up near Sunbury.
Natalini talking about his scary experience getting sucked into a low-head dam. He won't boat anywhere close to the Dock Street Dam.
The buoys are heavy, the river is powerful. People were concerned about getting sucked in or damage to their boats.
Mayor Eric Pappenfuss says the city couldn't find a contractor willing to install all 40 of these buoys. They're installed up and downstream, topped with LED lights.
I went to our fire chief, who is also our emergency management coordinator for the city, and I said, we've got to do this. We've got to make the river safer for people. Will you take charge and will you get it done? And he said, yes, sir, I will.
The city spent about $20,000 on the buoys. Natalini says they're worth every penny.
The river has no mercy. It'll take you and have a lot of fun fishing all day, but one little mishap and you can mess up your boat and you can get somebody killed.
Again, Harrisburg firefighters were the crew that installed all of these buoys. Now, Mayor Pappenfuss says if there is flooding in this area, they'll pull the buoys out. Reporting live in Harrisburg, I'm Karina Chung, CBS 21 News.
Thank you, Karina. One person is dead, another in custody after a shooting in York this morning. A man was found shot to death inside the West Princess Street home. A woman who claims to be his cousin says she thinks the conflict may have been over a woman.
He is a good guy, but he was crying about her, so I don't know.
So far, the coroner is not releasing the name of the victims as they try and notify the family. Police took one person into custody. The suspect is also not being identified at this time.
Happening now, blizzard conditions in the Midwest. Take a look. This is in Minnesota, where snow has been pummeling that region throughout the day. Wow.
I'm not
Don't
looking.
miss that,
Let me know when I can open my eyes.
That. Several inches have already fallen, and more is expected to come.
It's all part of a system that's going to be bringing April snow to the Midwest. Chief Meteorologist Tom Russell joins us now, and we're not seeing anything like that, right?
No, I promise. We will see a little rain from that system, guys, but nothing like that. And I want to show it to you on the radar here because this is quite the treat. Maybe that's not the right word. For April, here we go. All that blue that you see, that is the snow. When you see that darker blue right from Minneapolis down towards Milwaukee, that is some very heavy snow. Anticipating a foot and a half, 2 feet of snow. Fortunately, nice and quiet here in central PA, so a little bit on the windy side. Winds out of the northwest at 12 miles per hour in York and Lancaster, 14 in Harrisburg. So a bit breezy and a bit cooler tonight. So if you're heading out, maybe taking the dog for a walk, you definitely need a jacket or a sweatshirt as we dip into the 50s and then by later on tonight into the 40s. So a bit chillier than we've been used to as of late, but we do see the temperatures kind of staying on the mild side. We'll show you that with the 7-day. That's just minutes away. Rob, back to you, bud.
All right, Tom, thanks. Advocates rallying at the Capitol, pushing to expand the Commonwealth's energy portfolio. Lawmakers want 30% of it from renewable energy sources, including nuclear. A similar House bill required companies to purchase some nuclear energy. Critics call it the 3 Mile Island bailout bill.
The costs of renewable energy are far lower than many other forms of electricity, and in fact, they're coming down. And as the gentleman from Pittsburgh just said, this ultimately is going to save ratepayers over time.
Citizens Against Nuclear Bailouts, a natural gas industry-funded group, argues the proposal would hurt customers.
President Trump signed 2 executive orders today aimed at speeding up oil and gas projects, making it easier for American energy companies' pipelines and harder for states to fight. It also gives the president sole responsibility for approving or denying pipelines and other infrastructure crossing international borders. This follows his decision to issue a new permit for the long-stalled Keystone XL oil pipeline. Today's signing would also impact the Mariner East 2 natural gas liquid pipeline that runs through parts of Cumberland, York, Dauphin, and Lebanon and Lancaster counties. And the Atlantic Sunrise natural gas pipeline also travels through Lancaster and Lebanon counties as well. Dramatic images after a building explodes and catches on fire. What officers say happened right before the deadly blast.
Plus, an elderly man arrested in connection with killing 2 women nearly 50 years ago. Next, the clues that finally led to police closing this cold case. The moments after a building exploded and went up in flames were caught on camera. Police in North Carolina say 1 person died as a result of the incident and at least 16 people were injured. They say a worker struck a gas line under a sidewalk, which triggered the explosion. The building has partially collapsed and several other buildings have been damaged.
A New York man is now in custody for the killing of 2 young women in 1973. Pittsburgh natives Lynn Sethlar and Janice Petropola were brutally murdered while vacationing on Virginia Beach. Police believe 80-year-old Ernest Broadnow was responsible. They say they used advanced forensic technology to connect him to the crime.
You chase people for a long time, and sometimes, I guess, DNA turned around or something.
Right now, they're still trying to determine if the killer knew the women or picked them at random.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears to claim victory in the country's election. The Blue and White Party, led by former Chief of Staff Benny Gantz, conceded. Netanyahu's projected win gives him a 5th term and is putting him on the track to be Israel's longest-serving prime minister. But with celebration comes despair as the future of the peace process with the Palestinians looks to be in limbo.
We're surrounded by right-wing radical people who want to annex more territories.
In a last-minute effort to get votes, Netanyahu promised to annex all Jewish settlements in the West Bank, extending Israel's control over the occupied territory. The move would make a 2-state solution to the conflict much more difficult to achieve. The Attorney General back on Capitol Hill for a second day of testimony.
Why he says he wants to take a closer look at what started the Russia investigation.
Afternoon turning into a spring evening. Temperatures in the 60s right now, but it's going to be much chillier tonight. We'll show you that in my first morning forecast coming up.
Spying on a political campaign is a big deal. That comment, at once an understatement and a bombshell, came from the Attorney General, William Barr.
He told lawmakers today about his plan to review allegations that senior law enforcement officials colluded against the Trump-Pence ticket in 2016.
Tonight, our Sinclair investigative reporter James Rosen brings us a reaction from the White House and both sides of the Capitol.
Before boarding Air Force One for a trip to Texas Wednesday morning, President Trump endorsed in fulsome terms Tuesday's announcement by Attorney General William Barr that he is reviewing allegations that senior officials at the Justice Department and the FBI abused their powers in an effort to sabotage the Trump campaign in 2016.
What has been found during this period of time are the illegal acts of getting this whole phony investigation started. There were dirty cops. This was an attempted coup. This was an attempted takedown of a president.
In Senate testimony Wednesday, Barr said spying on a political campaign is a big deal and defended his launch of a new probe into the origins of the Trump-Russia investigation.
I think spying did occur.
Well, let me...
But the question is whether it was adequately predicated. And I'm not suggesting it wasn't adequately predicated, but I'd need to explore that. Congress is usually very concerned about intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies staying in their proper lane and I want to make sure that happened.
Barr's probe of alleged misconduct at Justice and the FBI will be the fourth announced.
Well, I think his statement is consistent with documents that Jim Jordan and I have seen in private.
DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz is expected to complete his review within 6 to 8 weeks. Utah U.S. Attorney John Huber was appointed to work with Horowitz a year ago, but has scarcely been heard from since. And Republican lawmakers are preparing criminal referrals based on their own congressional inquest. The Senate's number 2 Democrat discounted the new probe by Barr and cast doubt on the Attorney General's impartiality.
There's a reason I voted against Mr. Barr for this position. He has declared early that he doesn't believe that obstruction of justice is possible with the president. I disagree.
Attorney General Barr said the new probe stemmed in part from his formative years in the Vietnam era, when the nation's law enforcement and intelligence agencies spied illegally on anti-war groups, and reforms were enacted to prevent recurrences of such conduct. At the Justice Department, James Rosen.
After a more than 2-year investigation, Congressman Devin Nunes is preparing to send criminal referrals regarding alleged misconduct during the Trump-Russia investigation to the Department of Justice. In an interview with America this week's Eric Bolling, the California congressman, talks about getting action for crimes which actually occurred versus crimes which were alleged.
So the job of Congress, a lot of people get frustrated because they want to see action for these crimes that occurred, right? They see on one hand, they see that Donald Trump was investigated for nothing. On the other hand, the Clinton campaign was working with Russians and there was no investigation. We've been investigating, but we can't lock people up. It's the job of the executive branch. So we're taking 2.5 years of work that we've done. We now have 8 criminal referrals. It doesn't mean that'll be all, but it pretty much cleans a lot of what we've been working on the last couple of years.
Nunes discussed a wide range of topics, including his Twitter suit and FISA abuse. See the entire interview with Congressman Devin Nunes on America This Week with Eric Bolling, streaming on CBS21.com at 7 p.m.
And now, CBS 21 News First Warning Weather with Chief Meteorologist Tom Russell.
All right, you're probably thinking spring. I'm thinking spring. Get a day like today, lots of sunshine, a little breezy, but our friends in the upper Midwest are thinking winter. And I mean serious winter. See that blue streak that you see? That is some heavy snow, and it's from Minneapolis over towards Milwaukee. But then you look back towards Colorado. I think the Rockies, the baseball team, actually had to change their game or cancel their game here in Denver. So you got all the way going up through the South Dakota and a little bit into North Dakota, but especially Minneapolis all the way through about Milwaukee here. So Chicago is right about there where it's basically rain, but just north of that. And where you see that darker blue, you're talking about a foot of snow, maybe 2 feet of snow in some places. Fortunately for us, nice and quiet here. A few high clouds that you see, but it's going to be a pretty nice night. Chillier than the last couple of nights. We've gotten spoiled with these really warm evenings. That will not be the case tonight. Winds out of the northwest at 14 miles per hour. Harrisburg 11, 10. So decent breeze going. The winds will diminish a good bit tonight, so not quite as windy. Here's an interesting stat. April's been pretty dry. You know, an average April year by this point, we'd have over an inch of rain. So far here in 2019, just 1/3 of an inch. So we're about 3/4 of an inch below average. Now I know we're only 10 days in, but that's a good thing. We've been so wet that we don't need to see any big time rain. We will see some rain later this week. Here's our 5-day rain outlook. Friday will be our next chance, and then right away again on Sunday. So we don't get a whole lot of break as we go into the weekend. Let me show you exactly how that plays out. We're dry tomorrow, pretty decent day on Thursday, but that's those clouds coming right back for Thursday night, but especially Friday. Friday's a cloudy day. However, the rain holds off until Friday night. So Friday is dry, but Friday night is wet. And then we get that little break I showed you here on Saturday. Saturday's not a bad day, but watch this. Comes right back for Sunday afternoon. So we're wet again Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and even on into first thing Monday. There's your Monday morning commute, and that's a wet one as well. And notice on the northern fringe of that, still talking about some snowfall. Canada, but not that far away. And then you see things winding up by Monday evening. So a couple of rain chances in our 7-day here. I'll show you in a second. In the meantime, clear skies, very chilly. Again, basically because of those winds and the clear skies, we're down to 40 tonight. So maybe it's time to turn the heater back on tonight. We'll see. As we get into tomorrow, lots of sunshine, windy, and 60 degrees. Cloudy day on Friday, but again, that rain holds off until Friday night, 68. As we get into Saturday, we cleared out pretty quickly, so Saturday's not bad, 72. Rain coming back for Sunday, 70 degrees. Monday, a few showers. As we get on into Tuesday and Wednesday, some quiet spring days, not too bad. So, you know, it's going to be a little chillier tonight, but when we got into the 70s, don't tell anybody. But at home, I turned the heater off
Okay.
because it was so warm. We didn't really need it.
You
So-
said your air was on the other day.
I didn't touch it.
I didn't go there yet.
I didn't touch
But we'll see if Mrs. Weatherman notices
Well,
the
now
heat off
she's going to
tonight.
know. Somebody's going to, okay.
It's between you and
Okay.
us.
All right.
between us.
All right, get this. It is technology that will make your cell phone, 10 times faster.
But it'll do more than just help your phone. The new possibilities, officials say 5G networks will open up across the nation.
Your cell phone is about to get a lot faster.
More phones like the Motorola Z3 seen here will be using a 5G network. The company's director of North American operations says 5G can provide speeds 10 times faster than 4G LTE, meaning you'll be able to download photos and videos in just seconds, and video calls will be crystal clear. And it isn't just for phones. 5G will also give driverless cars the ability to talk to each other.
The goal is to get to less than 10 milliseconds, which is almost instantaneous. So if you can get that level of information to a driverless car, for example, it could be that much more accurate and more safe.
5G networks are currently being built in cities across the country.
It's the incredible story of a young athlete, how one local volleyball player is inspiring others despite his terrifying battle with cancer.
But first, live team coverage as we remember fallen heroes. How the story of Marines killed in Afghanistan this week hits home for people in York County.
In an unprecedented move, President Donald Trump announced Monday that the U.S. is designating Iran's Revolutionary Guard a foreign terrorist organization. He's moving away from long-held ideology that Iran sponsored terrorism towards calling the nation out on financing and promoting terrorist activity directly. Administration officials said the move is a response to Iran's destabilizing behavior across the Middle East. Because of his lack of foreign policy experience, I wasn't too optimistic when Trump became president. However, his latest designation of Iran's Revolutionary Guard is a move I cautiously support. Iran and Syria, Hezbollah's foreign sponsors, hold the key to resolving the violence in Lebanon and often play a part in the escalation of the conflict. The U.S. has been seeking innovative ways to increase pressure on Iran since Trump left the multinational accord negotiated during President Obama's administration. Though Obama's approach was to persuade Iran to change its behavior by strengthening its links with the rest of the world, Trump has taken the opposite approach, assuming economic isolation will force the regime to switch course. Let's get to the point. President Trump is taking a new and risky approach to Iranian-supported terrorism. It could ultimately pay off, but it also poses the risk of retaliation.